You're about to watch what we call an extended clip of the Young Turks, and the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little longer than our YouTube clips, but it's actually shorter than the whole 2-hour show, which you can get if you're a member. You can get it ad-free, and make sure you catch every news story we do that day. You're gonna love it as a full show. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for watching. Wow, stick it on, drop it. Welcome to the Young Turks, anti-conspiracy, Jay Cougar, Jimmy Dore, everybody. I did Jimmy's show on Monday of this week.
The live show.
Yeah, the live show in Burbank. I said it in a post game. I'm going to say it again right here. First of all, that place was bananas. Okay, and I'll tell you why it was bananas, because of Jimmy Dore. Like, why is this sold out on a Monday night with a fervent, crazed audience?
Monday's the new Friday, duh.
It is if Jimmy Dore's in the house, okay. And just the passion of the fans was just awesome to see, Jimmy. And it was a great show, really funny. And by the way, I'd like to take this moment to say some of the things that they said during that show, I denounce and reject. Okay, okay, now we're moving forward. I said what I said. What they said is what they said.
What we said is our own. Everybody stands by their own words.
That's right. Okay. All right. I got a fun and important announcement for you guys, and then I'm going to have another one on Monday. So I need you guys to go nuts on Monday. But let's do the first one right now. An important and dramatic announcement at TYT Network history.
Dramatic
announcement, everybody. On Monday, we are starting a new show called Rebel Headquarters. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so we're having fun. Okay, what is it for? It's going to be a progressive hub. Okay, so what I want people to do is to come and watch where we are going to gather progressives. So we're going to talk to people who are already in office who are progressives, but actual progressives, okay? Non-progressives are barred. Okay, like, so it's because sometimes people say, oh, in the network you should talk to right-wingers. That's true, we do on TYT interviews all the time. Are we going to do that on Rebel Headquarters? No, it's for rebels. It's not for the empire, okay? So no interest there. We're going to talk to candidates. We're going to talk to groups like Our Revolution and many others that are great, wonderful progressive groups. And I want to show you guys what they're up to. I feel like there's no place on the internet right now where you can go, okay, is there a protest? Is there a movement? Is there a rally? Is there a gathering? What are we doing? Well, come to Rebel Headquarters, you're going to find out. So, the main Young Turks show, of course, is live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every day. And you can get that at tytnetwork.com/live, where you can get all of our shows, okay? Now, this is going to be right after the main show. So at 8:05 p.m. Eastern to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So a nice half-an-hour show. Yes, you can do the math. It's 25 minutes. Take a 3-minute break in between. Yes, fine, it's 22 minutes, but it's going to be awesome. Okay, we're going to have these guests on, and then I want you to actually start sending emails to us. And don't get impatient with us if we can't get to your stuff right away. But I want you to tell us about local candidates that maybe we haven't heard of and that you think are wonderful, or organizing things that you're doing at the state level, the local level, or the national level. So rebelhq@tytnetwork.com is where you're going to email us, and our producers will look through that, and to the best of our abilities, we're going to try to get the message out. So there's a limited bandwidth, of course, so we don't have very many guests on TYT, almost not at all during the main Young Turks live show during the 2 hours. Here's where we're going to have the guests and the progressives that are on. And from time to time, you guys say, oh, well, for example, Justice Democrats only works at the national level. That's right. That's a different group. And yes, they only do national candidates. This is for all progressives. So if you got a local candidate that you're a Bernie supporter or a wonderful progressive, come on in. Let's try to get all those people the attention that they deserve to the best of our abilities. By the way, I happen to be today doing a power panel on a live show with the two other people who will host Rebel Headquarters from time to time. I'll be the main host, but Anna is going to fill in for me. So is Jimmy Dore, everybody. Jimmy, I don't know. Are you rebel enough for Rebel Headquarters?
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm going to find out.
One of the aggressive progressives right here.
I don't mind interviewing people who are progressives, whatever, as long as they don't say anything that hurts the party and the in this general.
Oh no, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
No.
This will be an aggressive show, and I think you're going to be unsurprised by that. But I think you're going to love it. So check it out actually Monday through Thursday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, right after the main show. tytnetwork.com/live. And by the way, some of the interviews and clips will be put up on youtube.com/tytpolitics. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, now, what's the news of the day, Anna?
All right, let's start off with Roy Moore. For months now, Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore has gotten a lot of attention due to molestation allegations geared toward him or against him. And that's understandable, but apparently during a September rally, he said some things worth of criticism that haven't really gotten much attention until now. The Los Angeles Times reported about Roy's statements in regard to slavery in America and how he doesn't necessarily think that that was the worst time in the United States. Now, just to set the stage for you a little bit, according to the reporting, at Moore's Florence rally, the former judge outlined all the wrongs he sees in Washington and spiritual wickedness in high places. He warned of the awful calamity of abortion and sodomy and perverse behavior and murders and shootings and road rage as a punishment inflicted upon us for our presumptuous sins. Now, that's how he started it. Then a woman in the crowd, she's been described as the only black woman in the crowd, asked Roy Moore, when did you think America was great? When was the last time you thought America was great? And then he gave this answer.
Trump mean? What does people mean make it great mean?
I think we've been striving for that greatness all the way through. I think you're right about that. And I think it was great in the minds of those who formed the Declaration. While they were not perfect people, they had problems. I think it was great at a time when the families were united. Even though we had slavery, they cared for one another. People were strong in the families. Our families were strong. Our country had a direction, and we corrected many of the problems. Today I see our families divided. Greatness I see was in our culture. Not in all our policies. There were problems. We had slavery. We've overcome slavery. We've had prejudice. We still have prejudice, but we've turned the tide on civil rights, and we've done a lot of things to bring this country around. And I think we can still make it better.
So his argument is, yeah, I mean, there might have been some racial issues with the whole slavery thing, but at least families were strong, as if he was living in that time period and knew the dynamics of families and how strong they were. And by the way, really, that was one of the great times in America where people were being lynched and sold off as property. By the way, what does he think about our president, who has been married a couple times and has children from several women? Like, are those the strong kinds of families that you are in favor of? Like, it's funny how they're unwilling to ever self-reflect, because if you genuinely believe in strong families, then you wouldn't be so supportive of Trump and his lifestyle.
So what a bizarre answer, because I thought that when I saw the headline that it was going to be in reaction to someone who had brought up slavery. No, he brought it up unprompted.
Yeah.
The first thing he brought up is, when was America great? During the Revolutionary War. No, America was in such bad shape, they declared a revolution. like they started a whole war because it was that bad, right? So that doesn't make any sense. But then you move to the worst answer, slavery. Okay, think about his perspective. Families were in great shape. Of course, as Anna points out, how would he know? Second of all, I assume he means from the white perspective, because I want to go to some graphics here and show you what historians said about those times. 32A, 32B, and 34 here, okay? So first, let me read you. Historian Michael Tadman has estimated that approximately 1/3 of enslaved children in the upper South states of Maryland and Virginia experienced family separation in one of three possible scenarios: sale away from parents, sale with mother away from father, or sale of mother or father away from the child. The fear of separation haunted adults who knew how likely it was to happen. Young children, innocently unaware of the possibilities, learned quickly of the pain that such separations could cause.
What a great time in America. Families were strong. The country had a direction.
I'm pretty sure that African American families were not in as good a shape as Roy Moore pretends to remember them, because he never even considered them. He only considered the white families. I mean, if you considered black families for 1 second during slavery, would you have made that comment? Like, you would have been like, oh, wait, oh, yeah, I shouldn't wait. I think even Roy Moore would be like, oh, I shouldn't say that, because but he doesn't care. He never thought about it from that perspective.
No, but you know what he's doing. You know, the fact that he immediately went to slavery was not an accident. I think it was a strategy. Think about it. We're in Alabama, right? He is speaking to Alabamans that he is hoping will vote for him. And what is something that, you know, they've been really fired up with recently? It's all of these protests among NFL players who refuse to stand during the national anthem. All of this talk about the Confederate flag and what happened during the Revolution. I mean, that was on purpose. By the way, this is my speculation, but I don't think that was an accident.
Well, it doesn't speak well of him either way. And that was back in September, just when the football season was starting and all those controversies were happening. So I'm going to read you one last thing because I think it's important, and I want you to get a sense of what happened at the time. Because I hear conservatives asking about black culture, as they call it, where are the fathers? Well, sometimes the fathers were sold off back in the day, and so that would be one answer. And if you think like, yeah, but Cenk, that was a long time ago. Things reverberate through culture and through history, man. And so you ripped families apart nonstop. And look, guys, when I say you, I don't mean you did it. We weren't here. You weren't here, right? But that's what happened in America. And to turn a blind eye to it is to not understand the history of this country. And it doesn't mean we can't get better. We have been getting better. But for someone to say in the year 2017 that slavery is when we had good, strong families. Well, let me read you this post that was put up back in the day during slavery. It says, information wanted of my son Jetson, who was sold about 16 years ago by a Mr. Dolehite of Oxford, Mississippi to a Mr. Thomas Ford of the same place. I've not heard from him since. Information may be sent to his mother, Susan Huddleston. So looking for their child for 16 years. Let me read another one for you. And these are tough, man, but this is what happened. Information wanted of my son, Alan Jones. He left me before the war in Mississippi. He wrote me a letter in 1853 in which the letter he said that he was in Charleston, South Carolina. That he said that he was sold to the highest bidder, a gentleman in Charleston, South Carolina. Nancy Jones, his mother, would like to know the whereabouts of the above named person. Any information may be sent to Reverend J.W. Turner, pastor of AMR Church, Ottawa, Kansas. So you rip these families apart, and then you have the audacity to turn around and say, oh, we had strong families during slavery. There are no bounds of decency with a guy like Roy Moore.
By the way, at the same campaign event, he also referred to Native Americans and Asian Americans as reds and yellows. So you kind of get a sense of where he stands on racial issues.
I would disagree with Roy Moore. I think he could go more recent. I think the time when you see parents and kids and grandparents coming together in a cohesive, I have to say the best time for that was during the Holocaust. So, or maybe I got to go back to the Dark Ages. Maybe that. Remember when families really came together during the Crusades? Anyway, I don't know. It's like, why would you? Because it's this idea that when blacks knew their place, that's when we had a nice society. Remember when blacks knew their place? Because that's what he's hearkening back to, the good old days. Remember Jim Crow? Remember that? He goes all the way back to slavery, but that's what that is. Let's go back to the good old days. I'm a good old boy, good old days. None of this PC culture and none of this civil rights stuff. And that's what this is. Now the blacks are uppity. They say whatever they want to you. I mean, I'm telling you, that's all this is. This is that same stuff.
Look, there's no end to his prejudice. Earlier this week, he talked about George Soros. Now, that's normal. They talk about him all the time. I get it. We talk about the Koch brothers. They talk about Soros. But then he went on to say he has a radical agenda. I was like, okay, I know you think he has a radical agenda, so I'm still not fazed. And he said his agenda is sexual. What? What are you talking about? And then he went on to do these anti-Semitic stereotypes and tropes about how George Soros wants to secretly control our politicians for his financial and sexual agenda. if he's not trying to offend people, he's doing a really poor job at it and really doesn't understand how to get mission accomplished. If he is trying to offend people for the reasons that Anna and Jimmy are pointing out here, where he thinks, well, Alabama voters are racist, anti-Semitic, etc., well, then mission accomplished. You're doing a wonderful job. So you look, he's done some terrible things sexually that we've talked about plenty of times on this show. But even if you put all that aside, and a lot of the Republicans in Alabama say, I don't care. 1/3 of them say, even if it's true, I don't care that he molested a 14-year-old and tried to rape a 16-year-old. Okay, that's fine. You don't care. That's fascinating. It's not fine. You're a terrible person. On top of that, I guess I'm not surprised that they say that I also don't care that he's deeply racist and all the other issues that we brought up here.
Well, what's interesting is what I see with Roy Moore is very similar, like a similar trend that we noticed with Trump, where he acts.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Terribly, okay, behaves terribly, and you think, oh, this is it. It's the end for him. And then it seems like it only helps him, which is amazing. Now you have the RNC, doing a full-throated endorsement of Roy Moore, and that's unbelievable to me. At first they're like, oh, no, we reject this. This is terrible. We condemn it. But then they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? Better than electing a Democrat. So let's go ahead and support him. And by the way, one thing that amazes me is the fact that Republicans in Congress right now are saying we need Roy Moore to ensure that we can pass our tax plan. Okay, but the tax plan is insanely unpopular. It's polling around 30% right now with the American electorate. So you are willing to elect a child molester to pass your incredibly unpopular tax plan just to appease your donors. That's the America that we're living in right now. It's amazing.
Yep.
So real quick, what I would just like to get your opinion on. Bruce Bartlett has been tweeting pretty hard about this. And Bruce Bartlett from the Bush administration, he's a Republican, but I think he's an honest actor. And he's saying that this is the Democrats shooting themselves in the foot and standing on, and because he says the voters don't care. And he said that's what he says. Voters don't give a crap, and we're doing this to ourselves. Or I'm not doing it, but the Democrats are doing this to themselves. What they're getting rid of,
what to themselves?
Al Franken, stuff like that's what he's referring. Like, because the Republicans are fully endorsing Roy Moore. They're going to keep winning and keep getting, and then the Democrats are eating their own, is how he put it. So,
John and I talked about this on the show the other day. The problem is that both Democratic. There's two different problems, in my opinion. One is that Democratic politicians think that if they drum Al Franken out of town and John Conyers, et cetera, then they'll win the Alabama seat. As a matter of political calculation, that's not remotely true. That those two things are not at all connected. You are just throwing your own guys on the bus. But there's a huge but, which is they deserve to be under a bus. At least Conyers, certainly. And Conyers is a legend, but it certainly appears that he did those things that he's got to go, right? Now, Franken, I think, is a far more difficult case. I'm not sure that I believe him when he says that he doesn't remember those things the same way as some of those accusers. On the other hand, we know Roger Stone was in on the first plot against Al Franken, which makes me wary of all of this, right? So to me, yes, there's the weak Democratic leadership. But the other part of it that we discussed on the show the other day, Jimmy, is that Democratic voters are more moral than Republican voters.
They are.
Because I don't want to reelect Anthony Weiner or John Conyers, knowing what I know about them now. I wouldn't vote for them, and I don't need to. I could find a progressive candidate in those races who hasn't sent tweets to underage girls or sexually harassed people that work for him. But Republicans, not only do they not mind because they don't really care about Moore. I mean, look, they like Roy Moore because of the hate that he has. That's not a bug. That's the feature.
Yes.
Right. So when their lack of morality leads them, even in, I don't know.
Aren't we supposed to be the immoral ones?
Yeah.
Aren't we supposed to be the terrible immoral ones?
They're the family values. They're the Christians.
Yeah, they're the family values who care about, the right to life and all that, supposedly. But, when it comes to right to life, it's only about, zygotes. But it's never about protecting living, breathing human beings. And look, in the past, and recently on this show, there's been some pretty harsh criticism toward, women who consistently support these types of candidates. And that criticism stems from the fact that I just don't understand how you can continuously vote for people who don't respect you, that think that you're just collateral damage, in their political schemes and their political agenda. They don't see you as humans. Like, that's the thing that drives me crazy about all of this.
So look, I don't accept anything the Republicans say. In fact, I think it's the exact opposite. So they call themselves the moral majority back when I was growing up, 80s, 90s. No, they're actually the immoral minority.
Yes.
So they don't believe in family values at all. When you have child predators, they think it's fantastic. Desjardins had 3 abortions from his wife and his mistress. Okay, he's a current sitting congressman in Tennessee, got reelected, no problem. They don't actually care about family values or morality. It's actually the exact opposite. Those white evangelical voters that are staying with Roy Moore and Donald Trump. And by the way, some have left, to be fair. And I said some Kansas moms would say, this is a bridge too far. Maybe I want lower taxes because I got tricked into thinking that was for me, whatever. But I'm not for this, right? And that has happened. He's lost 17% of support among white evangelicals. Donald Trump has, okay? But for those that remain, the lack of morality is not the bug, it's the feature. Why do they like Roy Moore and Donald Trump? The number one reason is they hate the same people that they hate. So those voters don't like Latinos, they don't like blacks, they don't like gays. They've been taught not to like gays and blacks, etc. And then so when they see a guy like Roy Moore filled with hate, they go, that's my guy. So you keep telling me to your original question about strategy, Jimmy, Democrats keep thinking if we show them that they're full of hate, that they'll vote against them. No, if you show them that they're full of hate or they're bad guys, they'll vote for them. And that's why so many got energized to show up for Donald Trump. They're like, finally, someone as honestly hateful as I am.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. That's why his poll numbers would go up every time he said something negative about any minority group.
So here's what I don't get about Al Franken. So Garrison Keillor writes this article in the Washington Post, says it's absurd what's happening to him. He has to resign. He says we're in the middle of a mania, and he says, I wish somebody would stand up to this. And I'm like, well, how about you? You're 75 years old, you're retired, you got nothing but time on your hands and millions of dollars. Why don't you hire a lawyer and call a press conference and maybe put a step to, if you think this is really a mania? Here's Al Franken, one of the most powerful guys in the entire world. He's one of the most 50 powerful guys in this country, the most powerful country in the world, and he's just going to roll over and if it's not true. So why doesn't he demand an investigation? Because that's what progressives are supposed to do. We're supposed to be for due process, no matter who it is. You don't discount the accuser, you take them seriously, and then you launch an investigation on those accusations. So this is what I don't get. Like, why is Al Franken doing this? If all these people are, even Bruce Bartlett saying this is a bad idea, and he didn't seem to be agreeing with it when in his speech, right? Yeah. He seemed to, you don't point your finger at other people when you're resigning in shame. So it didn't seem like he was accepting it to me. Like, he's like, I'm doing this because my colleagues are throwing me under the bus. That's why I have to do this. What do you think?
Well, so last thing on that is that there's two different possibilities as to why Franken is doing this specific thing. One is he did it in some of the instances, and he knows that if it goes to an ethics investigation, they're going to find out, oh yeah, here's picture X, here's picture Y, here's witness Z and witness D, etc. Right? And then it's 8 people now, but maybe it's more, and maybe some of those he says he adamantly did not do it with some of them. Okay. All right, it's possible. I believe in due process. I said yesterday on the show, I yelled and screamed, there should be an ethics investigation. If he doesn't think he did it, he shouldn't step down, right? So, but it's possible that he thinks he did do it, and that's why he's stepping down.
Right.
So that's possibility number 1. Possibility number 2 is he really thinks in his mind, right or wrong, that he didn't do it, but all the Democrats got together and said, no, you got to go, otherwise we won't win the Alabama seat. And that is preposterous. Absolutely not true in terms of political tactics. He should do the right thing morally either way, right? But he shouldn't do it based on Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer's terrible, terrible political calculations.
So where does the speculation that they're doing this to win the Alabama seat, where does it come from?
I've read in articles about the Democrats are worried that Kellyanne Conway and others are going on TV and saying, but what about Conyers and what about Franken? So it's negating their so-called advantage in the press.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
All right.
But again, on the other hand, look, it's a complicated, nuanced issue. Nuance is important. There were 6 Democratic senators, women senators, who came out and said no more. So it's entirely possible he did it, and they are deeply aggrieved by that, and they acted out of the moral compunction. So I don't make blanket assumptions about this, a complicated issue. The one thing I'll tell you with absolute certainty, no question about it, and I talked about it on the show yesterday, and we have a petition, okay? If Al Franken is resigning because of allegations, Donald Trump should definitely resign. No ands, ifs, or buts. He clearly did worse. There's witnesses to him saying that he did worse. There's witnesses to him doing it.
Videotape of him saying.
That's right. So tytnetwork.com/resign. So at a bare minimum, they should have the same standard. So if everyone agrees Franken should resign, great, then Donald Trump should resign immediately. I don't know why you would have 2 different standards.
What about all those people who they use that fund to pay them off, for all the congressmen and senators, and they had to pay? So why doesn't Al Franken demand that their names be made public? Like
that slush fund.
Yeah, like how about all of a sudden I'm not treated the way everyone else has been treated? Like again, if there's all these problems, and Al Franken seemed to think there were lots of problems with this, why doesn't he stand up? Right. So I think what Cenk says is that maybe he did some of it, and that's why he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would want to name names. So
such a mealy-mouthed way to resign. You can't point the finger while you're resigning.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a second portion of the Roy Moore story that I really want to get to. So let's do it. Beverly Young Nelson is one of the women who accused Roy Moore of sexual assault when she was a 16-year-old waitress at the Old Hickory House. She is the accuser who had the yearbook signed by Roy Moore and provided it as evidence that Roy Moore did in fact know her and, of course, signed that yearbook. Well, now there is a twist to that story because apparently Young Nelson had added a date at the very bottom of what Roy Moore had signed. Conservatives caught on to that, and now they're saying the entire thing has been forged, which is absolutely not true. They're just doing what they can to discredit her, and in addition, discredit anyone else who has accused him of any misconduct. Now, Moore's defenders have pointed to the difference between the 7s in Christmas 1977, which Moore wrote, and the 12/22/77, which Nelson wrote. The inscription and the appended text were obviously written by different people, with Moore writing the former. Now, Nelson had simply added a note to the bottom of his inscription, writing the date, 12/22/77, and Old Hickory House, the restaurant of where the two had met. Now, of course, conservatives are taking that one small thing and they're turning it into a massive story where they're pretending as if the entire thing was made up, completely fabricated, and again, that is not true. So I'll give you some headlines. First, Breitbart. They had the headline that says the following: bombshell, Roy Moore accuser Beverly Nelson admits she forged yearbook.
She didn't admit that at all.
That is just flat out a lie. That's it. It's a flat out lie. It's insane. Okay. there's more. So Fox News also jumped on this story and then later had to retract it because they also lied. Fox News ran an article on their website using the word forged in their headline, although annotations are very different from forgeries, right? So the tweet that they had sent out said, Roy Moore Accuser admits she forged part of yearbook inscription attributed to Alabama Senate candidate. Now, in the article, they actually changed the word forged to something a little more accurate. And the story also writes, and this is also untrue, that Moore has denied signing the yearbook and said he did not know Nelson at the time. I'm sorry, this is the inconsistent. Okay, no, let's continue. Moore also went on to become a judge and then the Chief Justice of the Alabama State Supreme Court, later ruled against Nelson in a 1999 divorce case. So that's what the article on Fox News wrote. Moore never presided over Nelson's divorce case. That, again, was a flat-out lie. Fox News had to retract that.
But just like Brian Ross, they have suspended everyone involved in all those mistakes for 4 weeks without pay. Because I know Fox News was very concerned about getting things accurate at that moment. These are very important issues. They're all suspended, right? Oh, they're not suspended. Well, that's so weird. I'm sure Breitbart has suspended the guy who wrote the headline, right? Come on. So, look, a couple of the guys that started this are the same alt-right characters who did Pizzagate, who went on to smear almost everybody they oppose. They call almost everyone they oppose pedophiles and child molesters, because what do they want to do? They want to protect child molesters like Roy Moore. So you just muck it up. You just call everyone a child molester until nobody knows what's going on.
That's right.
And the mainstream media calls it even, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so here they're like, oh, she wrote an annotation that, hey, don't forget, this is when it was said. Now, if she had decided that she was going to forge the whole thing, why didn't she just write the whole thing in the same handwriting?
Right.
Why is there two different handwritings? Okay, so, or why would you bother to get someone else to write it in Roy Moore's handwriting and then add a second thing in your handwriting, thereby tipping people off? No, it's because Roy Moore wrote the thing, which in the beginning he didn't even deny. Now, and my favorite quote of his now is that he questions whether, quote, everything written in that yearbook was written by Roy Moore. No, of course not everything written in the yearbook was written by Roy Moore. In other words, he doesn't want to deny that he wrote the part that he wrote. He's saying, but I didn't write everything in the yearbook. Well, nobody's saying you wrote everything in the yearbook.
So stupid. And by the way, I mean, look, most people read headlines, okay? Most people will read a headline and then they will think that they know all the details of the story based on that headline. So do you think people are going to get into the nuance of what Nelson wrote and what Roy Moore wrote? No, they're going to read that headline from Breitbart and then they're going to use it for their justification for voting for Roy Moore. And so my message to those people is, look, based on what the polls currently say, Roy Moore is likely to win. You guys don't care about the molestation. You don't care about the sexual assault. You don't care about the women in your state. You don't care about teenagers who were dealing with sexual misconduct on Roy Moore's hand or at his hand. So just stop twisting and turning things so you can justify voting for him. You don't care. Just be proud of the fact you don't care and go ahead and vote for him.
Just say it.
Just say it.
Say it.
I mean,
Sam Kinison was legendarily saying, say it!
Like these mental exercises that they're doing to justify and feel better about themselves. No, you're a bad person. Just accept it. You like voting in favor of child molesters because you think that's better than voting in favor of a Democrat. You think a Democrat's worse.
One of the alt-right guys spreading this has admitted in the past online that he doesn't care about rape. Well, and he doesn't believe that date rape even exists. So just own up to it, man. What are you doing all the tricks for? You know why you're doing the tricks? Because you know that people actually don't agree with you. The majority of people are not as vile as you, and you know that. So that's why you try to trick people into being on your side by pretending to have facts you don't have.
I just think the most ironic thing maybe ever is that Fox News retracts that thing about the divorce, but they're standing by their denial of climate change.
Yeah. And just about every other lie they do, right?
It's like, oh, we're sorry, we got that wrong, but climate change still isn't a thing.
The uneven playing field is what drives me crazy. I talk about it all the time. So first of all, when the press treats the right and the left equally, it's just they're not equal. Your job is not to be neutral, it's to be objective.
Yes.
The right wing has a bunch of monsters that lie on purpose and then brag about it. One of the other things that these alt-right guys do is like, oh good, let's make up a thing about how a guy is a sexual predator who's totally innocent, and let's try to get it to be #1 on the Google search. So that anyone who Googles his name will think that he's a child molester because we don't like him politically. You're gonna take that guy's word as legitimate? Are you insane? So you've got to at some point have guts and say, if I'm going to be a real journalist, I have to actually call things as they are and not be afraid that the Republican or alt-right or Breitbart or Fox News is going to yell at me. There are monsters that go bump in the night, and those are those guys. And it's provable. You've seen their track record. But still, they'll be afraid. They'll be afraid. Breitbart is nothing but lies. So no, you can't take, how can you take Breitbart, anything written in Breitbart seriously? And then for Fox News, they're a gateway drug to the alt-right nonsense, okay? And so they take that, and it goes both ways. They take that stuff and they put it out there, and they do a trick, by the way, that the Pentagon does. We didn't bomb civilians. They'll blare it in the headlines. The first day that there's a bombing, 17 people killed in a wedding. We didn't bomb civilians. Everybody prints in New York Times, everyone. They did not bomb civilians. That's what Pentagon says. 2 weeks later, Pentagon's like, yeah, we might have bombed civilians. That goes in A17 in a correction that no one ever reads.
That's so true.
And so Fox News goes, forgery of Roy, saying that Roy Moore wrote that stuff in the yearbook. It's forgery, and everybody reads it. And then when no one's paying attention, hours or days later, with no consequence to anyone who ever wrote it, they'll say, oh, by the way, it wasn't a forgery, and by the way, he never was involved in that case.
Yeah.
And no one will see that. And they'll have riled up enough people to go vote for Roy Moore. That is the agenda of Fox News. The fact that not only are they part of the so-called legitimate press, but they were running the White House Correspondents' Dinner and group. I don't know if they still are. I know they were until very recently. It's a joke. And then when Obama said, hey, we should challenge Fox News, they're like, how dare you, our beloved Fox News colleagues who I would like to join later for a really high salary. By the way, you go back and look, when Howard Kurtz used to kiss Fox News' ass when he was on CNN, I said on this show, the reason he's doing that is but one day he might work at Fox News. And guess what happened? One day, Howard Kurtz moved over to Fox News and now gets a hefty paycheck to kiss their ass on their air. Because they all go in the same circle. They're all part of the same group getting paid.
All right, we got to take a break. Let's do that. And when we come back, an update on Trent Franks and some new allegations against him. You don't want to miss it.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. You're only halfway through, so hold, stay right here. Just want to remind you, if you want to get all 5 segments of the Young Turks commercial free, these are just 2 of them. Every day we do it. So go to tytnetwork.com/join. And you get the whole 5 segments, 2 hours, ad-free. Do it now. All right, yes, Jimmy dancing. That's what you tuned in for. All right, TYT, Cenk, Jimmy Dore, Anna Kasparian. YouTube Super Chat has a comment from Alan Kaula. You can lie, rape, and cheat with no consequence in America today. I think Trump realized this before he decided to run, way ahead of everyone else. The $64,000 question, how do you now combat this? Well, Alan, that is a great question. If you've got the answer, you're probably going to get more than $64,000. Beth Havens asks, what was the link for the petition for Trump to resign for his sexual harassment history? That's tytnetwork.com/resign. Very simple to remember, okay? And Sufyan D says, I love how Anna Kasparian always says all right when starting a new story, and I do mean always. All right.
What? Oh, no. That's what Jake did. It's your fault.
Of course it is.
No, but you used to always do that, and it rubbed off. Damn it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't even notice that I do it, but all right.
Everything's going to be all right. Get it? Get it? Okay.
Oh. Can I tell you a way more embarrassing thing? So I was interviewing Abby Martin. You know who that is? Mm-hmm. And I always, I get nervous when I'm talking to people who are more accomplished and smarter, and which is most of the time.
Oh, no wonder you're nervous today.
Yes. So I referred to her show as it's Empire Files, and I called it Empire Fires at least twice. And people are busting my balls in the comments. And Kyle Kalinske tweets it out. Like he fucking could not shut up about it.
Kyle Kalinske was criticized me on Twitter though. It's a normal thing.
No, he busted my ball. I took it.
And then Young Turks, as you know, the Young Turks network Twitter automatically retweets. Right, so they retweet Kyle Kalinske, and it wasn't even busting my balls. He was just disagreeing with me, like, "Oh, Cenk's wrong about this," right?
Oh, okay.
Well, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And then TYT's like, "Cenk is wrong." That's okay. God bless. Anyway, Jules writes in, Jimmy Dore is so reserved when he's on the main show. LOL.
It's because we have a leash on him. And sometimes we get those conspiracy theories, and it's like, oh, it's Anna and Cenk. They got a leash on Jimmy.
No, it's because
I assure you, there's no leash.
There's two other people on the show talking, so I can't just get. It takes me a while to get revved up, So
that's right. By the way, if you think Jimmy's unleashed on the Jimmy Dore Show, great. Go check it out. YouTube.com/The Jimmy Dore Show. And
that's
Jimmy,
the loosest leash in the world.
Yeah, I know. Man, if there's a leash there, it's invisible.
Yeah.
It's like Wonder Woman's lasso.
Yeah, that's right.
So YouTube.com/The Jimmy Dore Show. And also, every once in a while, of course, Jimmy does his shows. You can find out about that at JimmyDoreComedy.com. If you'd gone there, you'd have known that I was going to be on Monday's show.
That's right.
Okay. All right. What's next, Anna?
Recently, our TYT Investigates team had reported that the Democratic Party, specifically the DCCC, had essentially pressured Democratic candidates in primary elections to sign unity agreements. And now there is a specific candidate who apparently is in line with Bernie Sanders and his policy ideas, who really questioned and felt uncomfortable about these unity demands. Now, TYT Investigates spoke to two individuals who are familiar with this candidate and his feelings about it. They did not speak to the candidate himself. But I do want to give you the findings of their story. So Doug Applegate is the candidate that they reported on. He ran against Darrell Issa in 2016 and lost very narrowly by a 0.6% margin, and was one of the Democratic hopefuls to receive a DCCC memo of understanding asking them to agree to forswear attacks that might hurt their rivals in the general election and to attend a unity event with their rivals after their primaries. So that's who it is. And apparently Applegate, let's go to graphic 19. Applegate said that he was in line with all the issues and the core values of Bernie Sanders' campaign. He has been endorsed in his 2018 campaign by the National Nurses United group, and also they were a major advocate for Bernie Sanders during his primary campaign. So you could understand why he might feel a little uncomfortable agreeing with this unity demand from establishment Democrats.
So there's three components that Michael Tracy reported on earlier, which I brought to you on the show. And now this is the update that we've got a Democratic candidate that looks like he's not going to sign. Before I get to those components, I just want to be clear about this. TYT Investigates does objective reporting, and they are not connected to the Just Democrats. I'm connected to the Just Democrats. All of our hosts get to have different opinions. My opinion is Just Democrats are awesome, but I did not participate in this at all. If I had, I think I could have just gotten Doug Applegate to talk to them. But anyway, they do this independently, so they apparently talk to two staffers, and I don't know who they are. But that's what's great reporting, and there might be more. What I understand is there might be more Democratic candidates who will not sign it. Okay, so now what are the three components? One is after the primary, everybody hug it out. I think that's the least offensive, but I still wouldn't sign that because I don't know. Did he do dirty tricks? The primary hasn't happened yet, right? If we ran a normal campaign with policy differences, that's fine. Like as I said on the show the other day, what if it was the 2000 primary between McCain and Bush is saying McCain has an illegitimate black daughter? I'm not going to hug it out with that guy, right? So, okay, but that's the least problematic. Second one is the one Anna mentioned, which is promise not to attack your primary opponents. No, I don't promise that because that helps the incumbents.
Yeah.
Because they already have a huge advantage. That also helps people who have super PACs because the super PACs can attack anyone they like. But candidates without PACs, for example, the Justice Democrats who don't take corporate PAC money, don't have super PACs, well, then they unilaterally disarm. Oh, what a funny coincidence. The DCCC has found a way to disarm progressives who are not corrupted by corporate PACs.
So I don't understand what the point of primaries are if you're not allowed to run against the incumbent. Like, what is the point of primaries?
Yes, it makes.
I mean, like they say all the time, politics is beanbag.
I'm pretty sure they don't say that.
They say the opposite.
They say the opposite.
Oh,
yes.
politics ain't beanbag, except they want to make it beanbag.
When it comes to progressives,
right?
Stand down, right? And like, let's take Applegate's race. Applegate had the closest race in the whole country, barely lost to Issa, and now Issa is losing by 10 points in that race. Okay, so Applegate is the clear front runner. He's actually raised a ton of money. That's usually the excuse they have. Oh, you didn't raise enough money. No, he used small donors to raise nearly $1 million. Applegate is the clear leader. If the Democrats actually cared about winning, they would support the guy who almost beat him last time, has a 10-point lead, has nearly $1 million. Clear, it's super obvious, but they're not. And so there's three other people in the race. One of them is a bundler for the Clinton 2016 campaign. Of course! Don't attack him.
Be nice.
Don't attack him.
Be nice. Don't bring that up.
Am I allowed to say that he was a Hillary Clinton bundler, or is that some sort of attack?
Michael Levin is his name.
You're being provoking.
Yeah. Another one is Sarah Jacobs. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this if I sign the DCCC letter. She's the granddaughter of Qualcomm founder Irvin Jacobs. So she's financing her own campaign. She's got a lot of money. Democrats love rich people, the Democratic Party, right? They're like, oh, you've got money to finance your campaign? You're awesome. Hey, Doug Applegate, you better not criticize her, right? And then there's another real estate investor in the race. So it's like three enormously rich people against Applegate. And they want Applegate to sign a letter. And I haven't talked to him about this at all. So I don't, this is Michael's reporting. We'll get Applegate on the show hopefully one day. We'll ask him directly. But they asked Applegate to sign a letter saying don't attack them, don't say where they're getting their money, who they support. Insanity. No, we don't. I wouldn't agree to that under any circumstances. And I haven't even gotten to what I think is the worst part. The worst part is the candidates must allocate 75% of their funds to quote unquote paid communications. It's largely TV. It doesn't have to be just TV, but you have to spend it in advertising. Why? Why can't I spend all of my money on humans? I want to go knock on every door in the district. I'm going to use 75% of my money on volunteers. No, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Why do you care? You care because actually these DNC, DCCC are run not by the politicians, by the consultants. And they're all going to get 25%, 15 to 25% on all those ads. You must funnel hundreds of millions of dollars from us. Otherwise, we're going to cut you off. And as Michael reports in TYT Investigates in this follow-up story, there could be consequences if they don't sign. Not only could they lose funding from the DCCC, support at the national level, maybe lose access to voter rolls, but then all the allied groups, all the veal pen groups in Washington, D.C., the big so-called progressive groups that have the same exact donors on their boards, then they cut you off. They go, nope, that's it. Okay, these people are illegitimate.
It's almost as if they learned absolutely nothing from the general election. Instead of taking ownership of the flaws that occurred during the 2016 election, they're just finding ways to squash any and all objections or opponents, and it will not bode well. Even if they're able to do away with these opponents and hide their message and basically squash them, people are aware of what's going on, and this is a really, really bad idea strategically.
So, by the way, if you want to support Doug, that's your call. I'm supporting him. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to be a great, great congressman. It's going to be wonderful to get rid of one of the most loathsome guys in Congress, in Darrell Issa, with a real strong progressive. He's a colonel. He's a Marine. JusticeDemocrats.com/Doug. And ApplegateForCongress.com. We'll have those links in the description box below in the comment section on Facebook. But Anna, to your point, we have different priorities. We want progressives to win. The consultant class that runs the Democratic Party doesn't care if they win. They just want the money. So if it turns out Issa wins because they screwed up this race, it doesn't matter as long as the 75% of the money goes to them. It doesn't. Next time they'll get 75% of the money to lose again. Who cares? As long as they get the money, right? Whereas if progressives win and they do not agree to funnel 75% of the money to them, that's a giant loss. Who cares who won the race? Progressive policies, they couldn't care less. They don't care at all. So we keep thinking that they're bungling things.
No.
Like, oh my God, they don't know how to win. No, winning for them is completely different than winning for us.
Nancy Pelosi said about a year ago that the people don't want change. She said that on CBS. She said people don't want change. She was the one who picked the chairman of the DCCC, Ben Ray Lujan. Is that how you say his name? Doesn't matter how you say his name. He was handpicked by Nancy Pelosi. And what is his job? His job is to silence progressives. And that's what this is. This is about keep the money train going, as Cenk says, and tell progressives to shut up. And they don't have a plan. Actually, this isn't the DCCC's plan to get voters. This is the DCCC's plan to protect corporatists. That's all this is.
And when they asked Nancy Pelosi, why should you stay in charge for the House Democrats, she said, I'm a master legislator.
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Then she literally said that.
Yes.
And then they said, okay, why? And she said, because I raised the most amount of money.
How is that legislative?
That's not legislating at all. There's almost no legislative wins ever. But she raised the most amount of money and then funnels a lot of it to her consultant friends who get really, really rich. Off the money, by the way, sometimes from rich donors, but sometimes from small donors. That money also gets funneled to those consultants. That's why when we say no more corporate PACs, they lose their minds. They view us as the enemy way more than they view the Republicans as the enemy.
Yes.
Go support JustDemocrats.com in any way you can. That's my opinion. But for the actual facts of this story, check out the link to the TYT Investigate story because they did a wonderful job with it.
All right. Moving on. Moving on. A jury in Arizona has just acquitted an ex-Arizona cop who was found on camera to shoot and kill an individual who was sobbing for his life and who did not have weapons on him at the time. Now, this story involves the shooting of Daniel Shaver. It happened back in January of 2016, and the story began when Shaver was in a hotel with friends. He worked as an exterminator, and so he had air rifles that he used during his job to shoot certain types of birds. Now, there were witnesses who said that he was seen waving his air rifle outside the window. As a result, they called the cops. And at that point, a Mesa, Arizona cop by the name of Philip Mitchell Brailsford, who was 27 years old at the time, showed up. And what you're about to see is a video of what occurred next. I want to warn you, this is one of the most difficult videos that I have personally seen of police brutality. It's very graphic. It's very difficult to watch, but it shows you how everything went down, and then we'll discuss the jury's decision in this case. Take a look.
Stop right there! Stop! Stop! Get on the ground, both of you! Lay down on the ground! Lay down on the ground!
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Who else is in the room? Nobody. Since apparently we have a failure for you to comprehend simple instructions, I'm going to go over some of them again, okay? Can you both hear and understand me?
Yes.
All right. If you make a mistake, another mistake, there's a very severe possibility you're both going to get shot. Do you understand that?
Yes. I do.
Yes. All right. Shut up. I'm not here to be tactful and diplomatic with you. You listen, you obey. For one thing, did I tell you to move, young man? Did I tell you to put both your hands on the top of your head and interlace your fingers? Take your feet and cross your left foot over your right foot. If you move, we're going to consider that a threat, and we are going to deal with it, and you may not survive it. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, young man, listen to my instructions and do not make a mistake. You are to keep your legs crossed. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
You are to put both of your hands palm down, straight out in front of you. Push yourself up to a kneeling position. I said keep your legs crossed.
Sorry.
I didn't say there's a conversation. Hands your hair! Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand?
Please do not shoot me.
Then listen to my instructions.
I'm trying to just do what you
Don't talk, listen! Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Crawl towards me. Crawl towards me!
Yes, sir.
Don't go!
Jesus Christ.
So it's like it's like they were playing Simon Says with the guy. I don't understand.
Jesus Christ.
Why doesn't the cop walk over and put the cuffs on
Just
the guy?
put the cuffs on him.
Walk over and put
Walk
the cuffs
over and put the fucking cuffs on him.
What are you waiting for? Why you got to make him go through a monkey bars? Why are you doing that?
I'm going to give you clear directions. No, you didn't. Put your hands down. Put your hands up. Put your hands down. Put your hands
Now
up.
crawl.
Now crawl. What are you doing? Go over there and put the fucking cuffs on him. Jesus Christ, they murdered that guy. And he got off. He got off.
So,
In cold blood.
Jesus Christ, man.
According to NBC, jurors who watched the full video showing Daniel Shaver's death agreed to acquit
What's
former
wrong with those
Mesa
people?
officer Philip Mitchell
What?
Brailsford of murder. Brailsford faces as many as 25 years in prison for the second-degree murder charge. I also I'm going to skip ahead to graphic 29 because this just gives you a sense of the mentality among those in the police union. The president of the Mesa Police Union said that he was extremely relieved with the verdict, although not surprised, and added that the union felt charges should never have been filed to begin with.
So you can't trust the cops in this country. This is what happens no matter where it is. The people who are supposed to be protecting us come out and protect the people who are killing us and brutal. It's to the point, that guy was white. And I don't know, Cenk, how you feel, but I get pulled over now. I got pulled over and a cop had his gun out, and I was afraid for my life. I'm like, oh my God, I'm white, it doesn't matter. They're going to shoot me. So this happens now. The whole country's paranoid about cops, even white people, and no one's doing a goddamn thing about it.
Well, look, now we all know how it feels to be black in this country. Mm-hmm. And they felt that for hundreds of years, and now we're all feeling it. So there's a couple of issues here. First of all, do you know what he called the cop who shot him with an AR-15? Why does he have an AR-15?
Why do you?
Okay, in a situation like that. Okay, by the way, Jeff Sessions thinks they should have more military weapons, the police, and he's going to give them more military weapons like an AR-15. He thinks that our criminal justice system should not be reformed. He's rolling back the reforms that Obama wanted to implement. Okay, you know what he engraved on his AR-15?
The cop?
You're fucked, okay? That was one of the reasons they later let him go, because they're like, this guy's out of control. Mm-hmm. He goes and engraves "you're fucked" on the AR-15, and he killed this guy. And so, but no, the police union comes out and goes, oh, he shouldn't even been charged. Well, of course we murder people in the hallways. Well, no matter what they do, we kill them. Of course, how dare you charge us? We're above the law, right? And so, and that was, the engraving was not allowed into court. It was inadmissible.
Yeah, why is that inadmissible?
So, look, guys, in my opinion, there's two fundamental problems here. One is police training. Nope, I've said it a billion times, I'm 100% right. You can see it in the video. They teach the cops to be cowards. They say to the cops, do not be selfish, don't care about the community. If you need to murder the community, it's fine as long as you don't take 1% of 1% chance. I mean, walking over and handcuffing that guy, I guess it's 1% of 1% of 1% chance that maybe he's got a nail file or something, or the air rifle. And how is he hiding a rifle in his shorts? A rifle was reported, right? So how's he hiding the rifle in his shorts? It doesn't matter. Don't take 1% of 1%. Don't get a hangnail. Murder that guy. He's got 2 kids at home. He's got 2 kids at home, and those kids are never going to see their dad again because we train our cops murder at first sight. So don't ask questions. Don't take any chances. You're supposed to protect us. You're supposed to protect us. And instead, you tell them, don't protect, only care about yourself. They teach them these moronic, morally hideous things like, better to be judged by 12 than carried out by 6. If the other guy's carried out by 6, we don't give a shit. He's just a citizen. Let him get carried out by 6. Let all of them get carried out by 6 people. Let them die as long as I don't have to. And consequences, we get acquitted every time. Every time. And the second problem is the guns. So hot tub, there's a couple in the hot tub. They see a gun. I get why they're concerned. There's mass shootings every day. They report it's not a gun, it's an air rifle, but they can't see straight. I don't blame them at all. I'd be concerned, right? So they're like, well, maybe it's a mass shooting. But there's a mass shooting every day, so the cops are concerned. They're like, oh, I could get murdered. There's mass shootings every day. Everyone has a gun. Everyone. If they reach for this way or that way, they have a gun. Because it's kind of true. In America, there's at least 250 million guns. So everywhere is a gun. So the cops are like, I'm not taking any chances. Everybody's got 8 guns. So I'll just kill them and be done with it. So this combination, this literally lethal combination, is what is causing that our cops to not protect us, but to systematically keep on shooting us.
There's definitely this sense of paranoia among cops throughout the country. There's no question about that. But in watching that video, and we didn't show you the full video, we showed you the most relevant parts, but the sense that I got from watching that video was that he enjoyed that power.
Oh, God.
And in the defense, during this trial, the argument was made that the reason why he reacted the way he did was because there was a woman in the hallway that he wanted to protect. But if you watch that video, he's threatening to shoot the woman in the hallway as well. And he seems drunk off that power. He seemed like he had already made up his mind before he pulled that trigger.
Even if there was a woman behind him, even if there was 28 people behind him, there was so much time for them to leave the building. Why didn't you just get them to safety? In the old days, look, there's no good old days. In the old days, they used to kill black people all the time too, unfortunately. Cops disproportionately, etc., right? But at least they would say, put your hands up. And then they would go to handcuff you. Yes. They would say freeze. You remember in all the TV shows, they used to say freeze, right? So now, any wrong twitch, and that's why, Jimmy, you're right. If you're pulled over, you have a legitimate fear of your life. Now, by the way, since everyone is armed, I'm not armed, but almost the whole country is armed. Now you got legitimate fear of cops. Oh, Jesus, this is a recipe for absolute disaster. And look, some of the cops, like that guy looks like he's on a power trip. But it's not just bad apples.
Cenk,
it's the wrong goddamn training.
Well, what do you do if you're not the cop but the other guy in that situation? What do you do if that's you? Some cops, you're at a hotel.
There's nothing you could do. Because what do? You're trying desperately to listen to his directions. He does everything he's told. Everything he's told.
He was sobbing. He was sobbing and begging for that
his
cop
life.
to not shoot him. He was begging for his life.
He kept saying, don't shoot me. And then you say, hey, look, I can't follow your directions because they're contradictory. Shut up! Shut up!
It says in a
well,
conversation.
I can't say anything. I can't say anything. I can't do anything. The same thing with Philando Castile. Put your hands up, put your hands down. You put them down, boom, you're dead. But you told me to get my ID. This guy, put your hands up, put your hands down. Oh, you put your hands down. We think in that one split second, his shorts were going down, and he was trying to pull his shorts up. Oh, could have been reaching for a waistband. Could have been.
Don't you have to see a gun before you shoot someone?
No, because they tell them. They tell cops throughout this, not every police department, and there's some great cops. We did a story just this week of that hero in Orlando who now they're going to cut his salary and fire him, by the way. He went in first to the Orlando nightclub shooting, and he saved people's lives, and they're like, he's my hero, right? He has PTSD, wakes up with nightmares of Omar Mateen, a Muslim radical terrorist, shooting people, right? And they're like, nope, I'm not going to give you desk duty. I'm just going to fire you right away so you don't complete your 10 years of service so your pension won't be longer. You take the good cops and you crush their souls. I did a story about a Baltimore cop who, after there was police abuse that he saw and they broke this guy's leg, he said, you shouldn't break guys' legs, right? After we had him in handcuffs. They throw dead rats on his car. They drove him out of Baltimore, okay? So, yes, there's a lot of good cops, but overall the training is, remember, we don't care about the citizens at all. That's not our objective. Our objective is to be perfectly safe for us. Be selfish, and if you got to shoot someone, even when you don't see a gun, doesn't matter. There are never any consequences.
I agree with everything you said. I hate that when we talk about stuff like this, we always have to say there's lots of good cops. Because if there were lots of good cops, they would be screaming as loud as we are for reform of the system because they would know about it. Unfortunately, the system we have right now trains them the way Cenk says. It attracts people who are unhinged. And the people who aren't unhinged when they go in, they either leave or they succumb to the culture. So this idea that there's a bunch of good cops out there is not right. There's a bunch of effed up system, people working inside an effed up system, and they're propping up that system. And that system is racist. That system is overly violent. That system is overly militaristic. That's a system that sees the citizen as the enemy and not a citizen that's supposed to be served. That's so, again, if we have all these great cops, it would be great if just 1/10 of them got together, held a press conference, and said we need to really radically reform how we police in the United States. But you and I both know that's not going to happen, because if those are the kind of people that would be policing, they would be doing it, and they're not. That's right. The system gets rid of those kind of cops.
All right, we're way over. We got to go. Sorry, guys. It's hard not to get emotional about a video like that, man. God help us all if we are in a situation like that. Jesus. All right. Look. Jimmy Dore, YouTube.com/The Jimmy Dore Show. Jimmy, thanks for being on. Brett's going to come on. We still have that story of the alt-right women complaining about how alt-right men are treating them, which is just amazing. So come right back. Thanks for watching what I hope was a lovely edition of the Young Turks. Now, you know that is 2 of the 5 segments that we do because that's free. We want to have you support independent media and come watch the whole show that we do every day. That's 5 segments overall, no ads at all. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Come become a member. Thanks for watching either way. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.